The Lorna McMurray saga that
Oh
we've been
boy.
covering since last year, which was mysteriously scrubbed from Leafly, um, they did a deep dive into what exactly happened at the True Leaf plant. But the family is now suing a year later to gain some kind of closure on their daughter's death. So Lorna McMurray died 27 years young in January 22nd, 2022 after suffering an asthma attack after from working in a True Leaf Holyoke production plant. McMurray's death was mysteriously kept quiet for nearly a year before the story leaked out past local rags to make national news as possibly the industry's first official death due to cannabis. Trulieve escaped the ordeal with less than a slap on the wrist from OSHA, paid a reduced fine, promised to police themselves, and ended up all out leaving the state high and dry, taking his talents elsewhere, back down south, presumably places where there'd be less regulation, red tape preventing them from being as great at capitalism as they know that they can be. But nearly a year after McMurray's death became an industry flashpoint, her family is seeking retribution and suing Trulieve in hopes of gaining some sort of closure and bringing a bit of peace back in the wake of every parent's worst nightmare, losing a kid before they actually pass themselves. We're bringing the complaint to seek accountability on behalf of Lorna's family, lead attorney Jeremy Carroll said by phone Tuesday. This is an incident that should never have happened.
We need the watch stream
Carroll
button.
said the family is seeking a trial by jury and has not specified a figure for monetary compensation. We hope it will protect other workers in the industry, he said. According to GazetteNet, in an agreement announced at the end of last year, OSHA fined Truly $14,500, concluded the company was not directly responsible for McMurray's death. Increased scale manufacturing in our industry is a relatively new endeavor, and we are determined to continually ask questions and seek answers to make our workplace the safest and healthiest it can possibly be, Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers said in a statement in response to the OSHA's findings. As part of the agreement, Trulieve was required to conduct a study to determine whether ground cannabis dust, Keith, is to be classified as a hazardous chemical while in an occupational setting. The status of that study, supposed to be completed by the end of May 2023, is unclear. On September 20th, following its own investigation, the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission notified Trulieve that it intended to fine the company $502,500 for alleged safety and other violations, according to an editorial in the Boston Globe. Trulieve can appeal. One of the nation's largest companies with 1.2 billion in revenue in 2022, Florida-based Trulieve pulled out of Massachusetts earlier this year, closing dispensaries in Northampton, Framingham, and Worcester, along with its Holyoke production plant. Rivers told shareholders the move stemmed from Trulieve's focus on its business strategy of going deep in our core markets and jettisoning non-contributive assets. The company now operates 190 retail dispensaries and over 4 million square feet of cultivation and processing capacity in the US, according to its last quarter report. Now let's go to Plymouth. Plymouth, Massachusetts is about a 2.5 hour drive from Holyoke and birthplace of Thanksgiving as we know it, and have been taught through revisionist American history classes as far back as many can recall. Some version of the lie of friendly Indians coming to help settlers arriving on the Mayflower has been circulating for hundreds of years. In reality, what we know now as is Massachusetts was land inhabited by the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. They lived on the land presently known as Massachusetts and Rhode Island for more than 12,000 years before a chance encounter with pilgrims led to their demise. There was no invitation to invite the natives to come feast with them. According to Indigenous activist and New England historical scholar Paula Peters, the Pilgrims were actually celebrating their first harvest given to them by the natives. And they fired off muskets repeatedly, a form of entertainment for the settlers. Hearing the blast, the Wampanoag thought it was a threat. The supreme leader, Massasoit Asamoah, assembled a small army of approximately 90 warriors and approached the settlement, much to the surprise of the Pilgrims. After de-escalating the situation, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag feasted together, though historical tests don't indicate what they might have eaten besides deer hunted by the Wampanoag, as Peters writes in an introduction to Of Plymouth Plantation. The contemporary holiday perpetuates the myths of the Wampanoag and the Pilgrim relations. It further buries the truths of kidnappings, pestilence, and subjugation, and ignores the scant details of the tense encounter, while it conjures up hallmark images of happy natives and pilgrims feasting on a cornucopia of corn, pies, and meats, including a fully dressed roast turkey. That shit never happened. As we gather today to feast with friends and family, it truly is a blessing to be in a place to give thanks for each other and all we've been through with those that matter. But it's also important to never forget what really happened. Lots of parallels in the colonist remix version of Thanksgiving and what seems to be going on in real time with Trueleave and McMurray family. Let's hope that McMurray family does find peace and gets whatever they're looking to get out of this courtroom case going forward. But it is important that we all remember, as much as it might be scrubbed in real time, what it really happened. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest down on the street. Open it up to everybody else.
Man, man, oh man, I can't believe that this is going down like that. I mean, actually, excuse me. Well, I can believe this is going down like that. Um, and I wish the best for the family in regards with this lawsuit, because I think we all can pretty much agree that Trulieve definitely did not operate as a well-intending employer in regards to this unfortunate tragedy.
Well,
Right.
my question is,
I was more upset.
why isn't this a work comp claim? I mean that's. I mean, I'm gonna do a work comp case this morning too. But if you are injured at work, most states have a closed loop system for work comp, and you've got to go look for ways to get out of that system. And in a wrongful death situation, they pay death benefits. My question is, what are the avenues they're trying to use to get out of the work comp system to go sue Cureleaf individually? I mean, family, and I mean, this is in a legal sense, parents weren't hurt by the death. I mean, they were hurt emotionally. You lose your kid, but the kid's the one that's dead. Who has the right to sue, and how do you get out of work comp? I've done this before. I represented a team physician for a profession for the NFL, and one of the players sued him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you what, they shit when we drug him in and made him go to work comp. Um, so it's just, I'd like to see the complaint and see how they got away out of that system to go try and sue and get anything out of the employer when it was the employee who was injured. And anyway, that's my thought on that case.
Yeah, I think they have a more in-depth version of what's fully going on with the lawsuit in Law 360 and the developing story. I'm happy to hear that the family is actually speaking out now because I don't want to insinuate anything that's not or allege anything that's not going on, but they were very mysteriously quiet um, throughout the whole proceedings of this
Mm-hmm.
case, and I was a lot more upset about this when truly it was just like they just pieced out.
Yeah, they
They
did.
they worked to get that. I think it was originally they were going to be fined 30,000 by OSHA, and they got that reduced to like under $10,000. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, we're out this shit.
Yeah.
Like as soon as the Massachusetts Cannabis Control said that they were going to fine them like a $500,000, they're like, oh, we're out. Fuck y'all.
Mm-hmm.
They took their ball and went home.
I mean, Dale, with OSHA coming out with that, I mean, is there still a workers' comp claim to file, or is this the better route to go, actually suing the company?
Well, see that's my question. I'm not familiar with all of their statutes. This is in Massachusetts, right? Is that where?
Yes. Yep. Massachusetts.
Okay,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I can tell you in California, if you're injured on the job, even killed, okay, that goes into the work comp system, and there are schedules of money they pay for that. And my question would be, how do you get out of that system? Because the person that died um, had the right to sue, or
Mm-hmm.
and how is that something you inherit? Do your heirs and assigns have the right to go take this case up outside the work comp system? That's where it begins to get a little troubling for me. And we typically get an employer's policy that covers work comp, and any other way an employee could sue an employer. And there may be some insurance coverage for that, but I'd like to see the cause of action. And reading these complaints is boring as hell, but it gives you some insight into what statutes they're using to get outside the work comp system to sue.
Mm-hmm.
OSHA will go in and close them down. They'll require they put in better HIPAA systems and modify HVAC. If this really is a contaminant that caused this death, they will come in and they will impose more de facto restrictions on you to come in and make your HVAC systems cleaner.
Why haven't
Keep
they
this
done?
out of the air.
Why haven't they done that already? I mean, when they did when they did with lowering the fine instead of increasing the fine, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
Dude,
a lot of
because
this doesn't make sense.
money.
And
Yeah, because
that's the
money.
problem.
Yeah, TrueLeaf came in there. So the crazy part, I covered this when we first covered the story. Um, TrueLeaf came in there and they revitalized a dying city,
Mm-hmm.
right? Holyoke, believe it or not, like nobody's really heard of Holyoke. You heard of Boston, you might have heard of Plymouth, but Holyoke has more licenses in this small dying industrial town, have more licenses than anywhere else in the state of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So cannabis came and revitalized the entire city. And they allowed them, is I think in the cannabis plants, they were the only ones that weren't unionized. They allowed them to do what the hell they wanted to do. A lot of stuff was just overlooked as far as workplace safety. And it was like an 80 plus thousand square foot facility. And they were just packing pre rolls, Keith everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Lorna was complaining of chest pains. She's never had any history of asthma. And they didn't even have N95 masks in the plant, like during and in aftermath of COVID. So she actually borrowed one of her father's because her father is a works in a plant and he had one of the industrial ones. So she was actually using his before she ended up. It was too late, so she ended up collapsing and dying right there on the floor because of money. Because the whole city, the whole town was revitalized by industrial big box cannabis. They turned the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to hear and see a lot more of what actually happened behind the scenes because of this lawsuit, and hopefully others will be protected going forward.
Well, businesses that have money and political connections don't want regulations on them that cost them money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty simple. You
Yeah,
ain't got to go to the Wharton School to figure that shit out. Um, and regulation, over regulations, is one of the problems that's killing the industry. So there's a balancing act in here somewhere, and I don't know if they're going to declare keef dust to be a toxic substance in the
yeah,
air. I mean, this is not the diamond waist shirt fire where they had to come up with regulations to protect people, but you still have to monitor the air quality. You
I,
subject people to contaminants in the air.
that would be the
And
first part of a
one
cannabis
complaint.
plant, Dale. That'd be the first part of a cannabis plant that they labeled as toxic in that case if they were to do that.
Well, I'd like to know the mechanism that she died by, because obviously you breathe stuff into your lungs, you can't get it out. You can have problems just from that. Was this an anaphylactic reaction where all of the muscles around her breathing tubes tightened up and she couldn't get any air? I mean, did they have anybody on site that knew any kind of first aid to take care of this? I've had OSHA roll into employers I represented, and they'll close your ass down in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why didn't that happen? Is that something they do in Massachusetts? Is if somebody dies, you can bet. I mean, I used to get called. You get your ass down here and you hold everybody's hand as OSHA walks through, because this is going to get ugly.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't supposed to die at work, and I
yeah,
hope this does pull back some covers of how this works, because the industry fights to keep regulations low, but without regulations, people die. So where in that do we find a peaceful medium that a business can be successful and employees can be safe? We're still figuring that out in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that line is, guys. This lady's dead. So this is an autopsy and going backwards forensically to figure out how in the hell this happened and what can be done to protect other employees. If you got a pre-roll room, that's all you're doing. I mean, HVAC systems can be pumped up to clean that air out.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a mask. I mean, these are kind of protective devices that are used in industries, and our industry's slow to adopt stuff. It's like this is something every industry's got to deal with. If you have particulate matter in the air and you subject people to it, something should be done to test it, to take steps to protect your employees. And it may happen that work comp makes them do that. They won't even sell you a policy till you fix this shit now going forward. I've had that problem too. It's just a tragedy because the cannabis plant is not in and of itself toxic, but for some people it can kill you, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the workers need to know going into a situation that, yeah, it's awesome, especially in the emerging markets. It's awesome to work in the cannabis industry legally, especially for those of us who've done things behind, underground before that opportunity. But if you're going into a workplace that is not safe, it's not worth the risk. you know,
Yeah.
Especially in industrial towns like Holyoke, where you know what workplace safety looks like in a plant.
Mm-hmm.
If you see stuff going on that ain't up to par, might be time for you to bounce
It might
because it
might
could
just
cost you
be.
your life.
It might just be.
I hope you have insurance that you left all this problem behind.
Yep.
Because the
Right.
cases sound like they aren't going away, and you don't do this without insurance. So let's see how that works out too.
And on that one, we're gonna go to a commercial and we're gonna be right back.